every season is not the same, but I mean, seasons are like, I think somebody explained to me, it's like, good seasons are like when a woman gives birth, they all look different. Some are C-sections, some take longer, some are, quicker. But as long as you have the baby, it's good, right? You know what I mean?
What the analogy, man.
You love them all the same. So, like I said, they're in the playoffs. Can't argue. So I think I was talking to somebody about it the other day. Carson and him, along with a lot of the other quarterbacks in the league right now, we play in a day and age where there's so much media content and everybody's trying to keep up. And now almost everybody's a news reporter with social media. So a season feels like 10 seasons. 1 week feels like 10 weeks, compared to how it used to be in the NFL. Anybody 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they had Carson Wentz as their quarterback that looked at his talent and knew about what he was able to do and what he's already done. You wouldn't hear these conversations. People would literally chalk it up to a lot of the other factors that do contribute to a team's success: injuries, fielding the team that you probably went in initially wanting to field. And then also, I mean, he's had years where even his own health was putting him in a place where he wasn't able to perform to the level that he wanted to. But still, they're still making the playoffs. Like, you look at the situation last year, they were in the playoffs, at home game in the playoffs. And like you said, if the season ended right now, they'd still be in the playoffs. And Carson's put the team in a position to win every single game. I mean, nobody wants to tie. But at the same time, the effort that he showed when he was diving into the end zone against the Bengals, you can tell that dude cares. There's a lot of players in this league that don't care. They have a bad attitude, or they don't give effort. Carson's neither of those, and he has the talent. So, I just think he's a victim of the social media day and age. I mean, there was people calling for Jimmy Garoppolo. He just went to the Super Bowl, but it's just noise, because the second he gets to the coaches, that's why Doug in a lot of his press conferences sounds so perturbed, because he's like, you guys got to be joking, And I think that's why Kyle has been the same way. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, if anybody in the press, they say no more football than Kyle Shanahan, I mean, they got to check whatever prescriptions their doctors hand them, So if he tells you, Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback, you can take that to the bank. So that's what I think it really is. But, I pull for Carson. I would say during the season, I'm very, as close as I am to those guys, they don't have a lot of time. So I don't spend a ton of time blowing up their phones. I did talk to Zach the other day. We had a great talk. But for the most part, I'm just praying for those guys and hoping that they're able to stay encouraged. I send them Bible verses every once in a while, or, mini devotionals, just to make sure they're okay, mentally, because I know financially they're good, but there's not a lot of people on a daily basis that care about their inner peace, and I try and be one of those guys. So,
well, you mentioned sending them daily devotionals and
yeah.
Bible verses.
Yeah.
Carson, I know, is well equipped to handle adversity. He's got this inner circle around him of people who are uplifting him, supporting him, making sure he's okay. He's right there mentally. How have you, I mean, obviously you're closer to him than I am. How have you seen him handle that adversity? Because he's been through so much. When you're the backup, your backup quarterback comes in and wins the Super Bowl in the city of Philadelphia, and then you get injured. There's a lot that he's had to deal with. How have you seen him handle that?
Right. I would say, the biggest thing is Carson's not going to project any of the pressure that comes with being a starting quarterback onto everybody else. I think he keeps great perspective. It was so funny, when I got married, to my wife, who I love to death, Shayna. We actually got married in Philly at the Botanical Gardens out there. It's one of those things where my wife still has things that, she still has problems. But I remember when we got married, I said, Shayna, there's a lot less people you can tell about your problems now, because they're going to be like, well, you're married to an NFL football player. They don't care at that point, because they think your life must be good. So imagine a starting quarterback who signed $100 million contract. The sympathy level for him on a grand scale is less than zero. So the people who, are there for him, we try to be there for him in a real way. But I think Carson has that perspective. If stuff's ever been down, he's never like, woe is me. He's never that way, and he doesn't project any of that pressure on his friends. He's always going to be the same, up-tempo guy that he always is. Whenever we send stuff into the group chat, he's going to be one of the first guys to like it or to comment back. So he's not shutting himself off. He's not going into hiding or anything, maybe when he's facing a little bit of adversity. But I still remember being just his teammate. When Carson jogs onto the field, he's got juice, man. Like, I think he takes pride in when he hits the grass. I mean, there's a lot on his shoulders, but you see those pads jumping when he jogs onto the field, man. 11 has faith that it's always going to get better. And you can just tell that by the way he approaches that. Those first couple of throws, you got to watch. You go to practice, watch how he jogs onto the field and watch those first couple of throws. I mean, that's the kid from North Dakota State that's like, we can get this thing done. And, I just think that the people who know what that looks like feed off that. And then just people that know him on a deeper level, know that he's constantly going to be positive about, what he's going through and where he's headed.
One of the things I see is that some of the younger receivers, inexperienced guys, aren't being aggressive enough trying to make contested catches or breaking up a bad pass that maybe they can't catch it, but break up the pick. Routes might not be run as sharply, as crisply. Now, from your perspective as a wide receiver, how important is it to be precise when you're running those routes so the QB has confidence in you and you can make those plays for him so that each throw doesn't have to be perfect?
Yeah, I mean, creating separation, I think is something that's probably big in that situation. But I want to say this too, on behalf of those young guys. Everybody's situation isn't the same. I think success in the NFL really comes down to three things. One, your own personal hard work. Then I think is the situation you're in. Are you in a good situation for your skill set? And then even if you're in a good situation, let's say you're a quarterback or a receiver in a pass-happy offense, you still got to get opportunities, okay? And so I think that I don't want to say these guys, aren't working hard. And I think they're in a great, situation as far as, Doug's offense and Carson and everything. But the opportunities that they're getting, in this environment is different. It is different when you come into a city like Philadelphia. And I really should say this, their opportunities are great because of the place they're in, but that's a different type of situation. When I came to Philadelphia, I tell people all the time, I might have been the third receiver, but I was the seventh option. I truly was. I got to come in and I knew that it was going to either go to LaShawn, it was going to go to Jeremy, it was going to go to Sproles, it was going to go to Zach, it was going to go to Selleck, it was going to go to Riley, and then it was going to go to me. People don't realize, like, offense is like when we draw plays, we're not like, we're going to get to number one receiver. No, like, there's options. And most of the time when you need a play to get done, you're giving it to the number one option. We got to put the ball in the best player's hands. Positions go out the window. And so for me, I was able to come into a situation where I was counted on and I was able to go display my abilities. But I don't think that the pressure on me, even in Philadelphia, is like it was on some of these guys. I don't even read the press, and I still get stories just about every rep this guy took in camp. I'm just like, dude, this is the second day of camp, or just like some of these guys haven't even played yet. I don't even think that Jalen has even played yet, And so I think it would behoove a lot of those guys, at the point they're in right now. I think they need to latch on to G Ward because of all the stuff Greg has been through and how he's been able to produce with what he's been given. I think those guys should put down their phones and latch real close to him and start to pull from his work ethic. And I think he could teach them a few things about how to compete and how to do their job at a high level, in a city like Philadelphia. Because I believe there's a lot of pressure on those guys, man, right now. And I think sometimes that can show up on the field, possibly. But before somebody runs off with that and says, Jordan Matthews thinks the wide receivers are not producing because there's too much pressure, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think it plays a little bit of a part, but I do think the guys are talented enough. I want to see Philadelphia win. I want to see Carson be successful. So I know he needs those guys. So whatever they got to do to make sure that happens, they got to figure that out.
Were you paying attention to Sunday Night Football, two of your former teams, Eagles, Niners? Do you watch, or is it difficult when you're on the outside?
Yeah, I watched the very end, but I really don't. I'm actually helping to coach up here at Vanderbilt in training also in case I get a call. But I mean, if it really doesn't like pertain to me, I really don't care too much. I care about the guys, so I check and make sure that they're healthy. Mm-hmm. But I could care less about the NFL unless I'm in it. They're not paying my bills, and that's okay. So I really check near the end of the game, like, okay, let's see what's going to happen. I was well aware that Philadelphia needed to win, and I knew that no matter what, Carson's still going to have his spot, but I wanted to see him get a win. So it was cool to see him be able to raise his fist at the end of the game. Like, yes, victory. That feel of victory for him, I know must have meant something, especially in a game like that. But I think it was also cool to see because I don't think the Niners have anything to hold their head for. I mean, they're still figuring out some stuff, but they got some guys coming back. They got Debo coming back. It was good to see Debo healthy. I know Jimmy's coming back soon. So it's going to be good to see him. I was really proud of CJ Beathard, for what CJ's been through, to have that opportunity to come out there and show that. Him and Nick, I developed good relationships with both of them. I think they've shown enough to be able to get good paydays as quarterbacks in this league in the future. And I don't think the 49ers, I mean, even though they're in a tough conference, I think they're still going to have a chance to compete for the NFC West championship. These weeks feel like they're taking long because it's only week 4. Yeah. COVID seemed like it's taking forever, but it's only week 4. I think the 49ers have a good chance of finishing really strong. They just got to continue to get healthy, and I think they will.
Well, I know you're preparing for life after football, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But, I mean, obviously you're still waiting, perhaps getting an opportunity, pursuing opportunities. I know it's different now, though, Jordan, with COVID. Teams can't bring a guy in on a Monday or two. Like, there's a 6-day window. Has that affected you? Has that impacted you? And what are you doing in the meantime over there in Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it probably has played some type of effect. I mean, you think about going into camp, you only got 80 instead of 90. The waiting period once you get called, you think about, golly, no preseason games, and so those are opportunities where, let's say there is a 90-man roster, I get a call, I still get to go to a camp, a couple guys maybe tweak a hamstring, okay, now I get a chance to go get some more new tape, and so of course it's probably played an effect on me, but I like to always think about it this way, man. God's not going to have me where he doesn't want me. As long as I'm operating in his will, I'm going to be where I need to be. So I don't really hang my head on that too much. COVID didn't surprise Yahweh, so I'm not going to make it seem like it's throwing me off guard either, and so I'm just still trying to stay in shape. I train with a guy here named Jeremy Holt. He actually trains George Kittle, Trent Taylor, Corey Davis, a lot of Titans guys, and a lot of the 49ers guys when they come back into the city. I was working out at Exos down in Florida, Pensacola, Florida, for like the whole quarantine period too. So I've stayed in shape, and now that I'm up here helping out at Vanderbilt, I work out here all the time too. Kyle Shermer, Pat Shermer's son, quarterback, who he's actually a GA here. So we even, throw a couple times a week too. So I'm staying sharp in case the call comes.
Malcolm Jenkins, Jordan, just launched Broad Street Ventures. You and several other players, I spoke to Jason McCourty about it, have become investors. What got you interested in a venture capital fund?
Yeah, so I would say I was already interested in kind of improving my asset column. We had started getting into real estate. I bought some property in Brentwood. I've got a condo in Nashville, about 9 minutes from the school, and we also bought some commercial real estate that we're working on in my hometown in Huntsville, Alabama. And so we started getting to the real estate game early on in my NFL career. But then I still wanted to kind of improve my asset column a little bit more. And I started looking at like the stock market, investing. And I'm like, okay, how do I play this game? Because you hear really good stuff and you hear really bad stuff. You're always wondering, like, who do I listen to, when it comes to this stuff? And then honestly, Malcolm came to us and kind of presented this opportunity to kind of dive in this group economics and for us to be able to invest in companies that are either growing or already pretty much very stable. But, usually you have to go in for some of these companies at about $2 million. Well, if I'm an NBA basketball player on my third contract, I might can do that. But as a football player, it was going to be more advantageous for me to do that with a bunch of other guys. And so when Malcolm brought this opportunity to me, it was a no-brainer. So we dove right in, and it's been a really cool process. And then obviously knowing Malcolm's heart behind it, that was the thing also that I was like, oh, I'm 100% in on this.
Malcolm emphasized the importance of having like Black founders for these kinds of funds, Black investors, and also Black women who can be involved. Can you speak on the importance of that, especially in these times?
Yeah. So here's what I would say. One of my favorite Bible verses is when it says Jesus walked onto the shore and he saw the people, he had compassion for them. And a lot of people don't understand. Compassion is like it's a sympathy, but it's sympathy moved to action. I believe that compassion is like that next step, right? But the thing that's beautiful is like Jesus saw the people. And I don't think we do enough of seeing each other. I think that we don't realize how visual we are. I mean, I think that's what Instagram has taught us. It's about truly how visual, we are. And I truly believe Jesus was able to see all of us because he created each and every single one of us. So he can see us in himself. I think one of the biggest things in our community that has to be changed is the way that we continue to look at each other and the way that the next generation sees the people who have come before them. Growing up, all the depictions in the media of Black men that I saw were not good. I was fortunate enough to have a loving father who loved my mom, treated her well, got up every day, worked hard, and was there for his family. And so, but then as I got older, I started seeing how we were depicted in me. I'm like, that's not it. And then when I saw guys from our community get wealthy, lots of times they'll move away from the community. And I'm like, man, how important would it be for the kids coming up to be able to see that? I feel like when you see success, I feel like when you see integrity, it makes it that much easier to believe that you too can achieve that you too can live that out. And so by Malcolm doing this, I think that not only are we going to be putting more money back into the Black community and investing in the Black community in a real way, but it's also going to be able to give kids a different light, the next generation a different light to look at, the Black men and women that have come before them. And that's what's really important to me, because I'm about the groundwork. And that's what I've loved about Malcolm. Malcolm's done the groundwork, and as much stuff that he's done that people see, he does a lot of stuff that goes unseen. He sows a lot of seeds that a lot of people don't know about, but have really brought about really good fruit. And I'm all about that, because this whole era of I feel this way, so I'm going to tweet it. I'm like, that doesn't last. That doesn't yield any strong dividends, because if I asked you, you're a media brother. Like if I asked you, hey, what did you see on your Twitter timeline 3 days ago? You wouldn't be able to tell me. But a kid's going to know about the person who invested in their elementary and bought a playground. He's going to remember that. Kids are going to remember about, oh, this is the guy who started this business. And then because he started this business in my community, he was able to hire my mom. and that got me the internship. And now I learned how to start a business because I was actually able to see someone that looks like me doing it. These are the type of conversations that we're going to be able to have, and the type of impact that I believe, like, going in, on this VC fund is going to help kind of jumpstart. But, shout out to Malcolm, man, because he's been doing the groundwork for a long time, man. He's been inviting us to, I think every other day I had an event to go to from the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation in my locker. So that dude doesn't sleep, so I couldn't be proud of him.
And Malcolm obviously is heavily involved in out there on the front lines fighting for racial equality, social justice issues. Yep. This year, it seems, with following the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, more and more people are coming around to what guys like Colin Kaepernick started, the movement he started several years ago. Malcolm's been there all along. I know you're one of those guys who's been there all along. Are you feeling more encouraged now, J-Matt, that more people who look like me, right? More people who are white or not black are finally understanding and seeing what's happening and trying to effectuate change?
Yeah, and I hope these lights don't mess up.
It's good.
Okay, because I'm in the meeting room. But Rob, I will say this. I've always felt that, people always say actions speak louder than words. I believe motives speak way louder than actions. And the hearts of men are hard to change. Very, very hard. Very, very hard. I grew up in Alabama. There's a lot of people that I've started to hear bring up these stories of racism and things like that. And I'm like, look, that ain't nothing compared to some of the stuff that I might have seen or experienced. I mean, I can remember about 2 out of the 3 fights I remember even getting into growing up was being called that word you shouldn't be called. But I still felt this longing in my heart to be like, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't know if I can change this person's perception, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure that, one, I grow closer in my relationship to the person who created me. And I'm also going to make sure that I'm the best Jordan Matthews that I can be. I'm going to hone in on that. And more than not, I can honestly say when I started doing those things, I got into rooms and I didn't feel, when I would go into certain rooms, this overwhelming sense of just racism. But here's what I'll say, though. I think it's one of those things that you never know if it's like, you don't know if somebody's hiding it, and you don't know if somebody's very out in front with it. So we do a lot of this kind of trying to figure out, is that person a racist? Is it? And I'm just like, look, I go off motives. I've been around people my whole life who are grown up around people who are white that called me and were like, hey man, I just wanted to know, are you good? I hope you know I've never felt this way. And I'm like, dude, I can tell by the way you treated me in our deep, close conversations that you care about me as a person. Okay. I know there's some nuances to the conversation that are going on, but I probably didn't even expect you to know about that anyway. I didn't expect you to go do a deep dive on civil rights and the stories that were taught that weren't taught in history class. I would be naive to think that of most of my friends who are white growing up in Alabama. But I'm like, how did you treat me? Did you see me as an equal? Were we able to love each other? Were we able to get along? And so some of the stuff, I'll be honest, as I sit back and I kind of look at it, I'm like, some of these conversations are just like, is this to really help bring about change, or is this to get clout? And I like to cut through all that and find out what is real. When I sit and I talk to Malcolm about the stuff he's trying to do, I'm like, okay, bam, this is real. This is true investment. I believe true change takes investment. It takes over a long period of time, like saying, I'm going to put down money, so stuff I work for, and I'm going to sacrifice my time to help build something up. I'm not going to be a flash in the pan. I'm not going to send off one tweet. I'm not going to post a black box with a quote and think I did something. No. You're going to show me how much you care about something by how much you're willing to invest in it over time. And so that's where I kind of stand on it. I'll also say this. I think this conversation is picking up now, and we hear a lot of differing opinions and differing, statements from athletes. Like, we think because like the NFL will do like a broad thing, we're going to put this in the end zone, or the NBA says we're going to put this on everybody. Well, you start to see certain guys say, I don't know about this one. I don't know if I want to win. The reason why I feel like in football, or in sports in general, there's so much this like kind of conversation going on under the conversation is because, dude, I've been depending on white guys my whole life to get a job done. I've had, like, my white teammates have had to see me and I've had to see them for who they are because we're trying to accomplish a common goal. The problem is that in America, you can grow up your whole life and be around people that look like you and never depend on anybody else and accomplish the same goal and accomplish the goals you want to in this country. And so then you finally see a black guy and it's like, what information do you have to draw on? Stereotypes, stuff you see in the media, the music. So you have no idea. It's almost impossible for you to see that person. It's almost impossible for you to have that compassion that I talked about that Jesus had when he saw the people. He had compassion on them. And so I think people in sports and people in the military actually have we're like on the fast track on conversations that are just now happening. Because, dude, you can't win a Super Bowl without getting along with the black guy, the white guy, the Jew, the Muslim, like people from all work, the poor guy, the rich guy. You got to put all that aside to say, hey, we're going to come together and we're going to win this thing. Slapping hands, high-fiving, hugging, having team dinners, Thanksgivings when the wives and the kids all come over. These areas and these spaces have already been melting pots. I think just when you're in a space like how America is, that process goes so much slower. It goes so much slower because there's not, in most people's regular day-to-day, they're not forced to be uncomfortable. They're not forced to step out of their comfort zone and say, let me go and actually talk to somebody who's from a different socioeconomic, background than me. And so if they're not forced to, they're not going to, Half people don't even want to eat healthy and work out, and that helps them. You know what I mean? So why would they go out of their way to get to know people or help people that don't look like them? Me, I don't bash people over the head who don't see that. If anything, I'm kind of like, it kind of just, I don't want to say I understand, but it's like, it doesn't surprise me. Let's just say that. It does not surprise me. So there's one thing I will say, people have differing opinions about Colin. I remember when Colin first, took a knee and the media came and asked me how I felt about it. I was like, he has every right to do what he wants to do. Like, he can do that. Like, you get, however you feel about it, you can't tell him that he can't do that. There's one thing I'll say that he jump-started was a conversation. And now you can't really hide from it. And so I think that conversation is healthy, but I also think that you got to go into a conversation with a very realistic viewpoint of where people are. And that's another thing about, my faith. And, I know that Yeshua always met people where they were. And that's all I'm trying to do. That's why I'm back helping with football. I'm called to be a fisher of men. So I can be this alumni who made enough money, not to have to work. And I can go sit at my house that I'm building in Brentwood and wait for kids to come see me. Or I can say, you know what? Hey, babe, I actually want to volunteer coach. Yeah, I want to do this for free right now, just so I can go fish, so I can be around the young men, so I can spend time with them, so I can invest in them. That's how we create real change. The white kids, the black kids, doesn't matter. Let's build this thing from the ground up. So in 10 years, these conversations are a lot more healthy.
Amen, brother. You hit on one thing that I 1000% agree with. It's hard to change someone's heart.
Yes.
But God can.
Yes. Amen.
That's how you can change someone's heart. And I feel like, the more we say that, the more we have that and tell people that, like you're saying, be a fisher for men and let people know that, as uncomfortable as it is in some circles to be bold about your faith, that's how that if we really want to bring about change, that's how we bring about change, by bringing people to the Lord, because
Yeah.
that is the one who can change your heart. He changed my life. He took me from who I was and what I was going through and how I was just running around with different girls and this and that, and made me a faithful husband, a
I
great
love that.
father, all that stuff. So he changed me. And for me, it's like I go out and tell everybody about that, and I'm not ashamed to. So
Right. Right.
that man is that's why I appreciate how you can answer questions throughout the conversation and inject and invoke who you are.
Yeah.
And that is a strong man of faith.
Yeah. This is, I mean, at the core, at my very much core, I'm a believer in Yahweh. I tell people that, like, I don't have to answer to any of you guys when I die. And that's just the facts. So people can feel however they want to feel about me. Like, and they can say, "Oh, well, Jordan, there's no God." I'm saying, "Okay, well, you go to your grave. You go to the grave with that. I'll see how that works out for you." I'm telling you that in my heart, I know that God is real, and that's who I have to answer to. So I rarely have too many opinions over the foundational things about how life should go or decisions that I should make. Now, how I go about those things, sometimes the effectiveness or the tactics, I think that's more just discernment. I pray over those things and say, okay, God, how you want me to approach this? But how I should treat people, how we should have these conversations. The word talks a ton about having these conversations in love and being patient, and showing grace. I think that's a big thing that's been left out of the conversation now. We have no grace at all in our world anymore. And quite frankly, it makes no sense to me, because I'm like, the same area where you're judging somebody, we can find something on you, and trust me, you wouldn't be able to work in this country again. So I'm like, we got to take a step back, everybody, and say, okay, where's the plank in my eye first? Okay, because people would say, like, oh, well, don't judge. No, the Bible does say, you need to look at the plank in your eye before looking at the one in your brother's eye. So there is some of this holding each other accountable. There is some of this, hey, I see something that you might want to check or that you might want to think about. But I think that we got to start showing, more grace. Like the conversations that I hear or the tweets that I read, there's so much anger behind it. And I'm just like, man, like, how about you might need to get off your throne for a sec, because, and it's from all sides, and I think that we as a people got to say, okay, what is truth? Let's take a step back and say, what is truth? Was that wrong? Let's all call it out and let's grow from it, and if there's something that's kind of vague, then we need to still figure that junk out in love, but I'm saying these things, and I know that it's still one of those things that I read the word. I know that essentially, and it's sad to say, this world it's not going to end pretty, and so as optimistic as I am, I know that, man, sin has done a number on this world, and it's still alive and well. So I just try and, stay prayed up. I try and love on the people in my circles, try and shed light. And like Joshua said, man, as far as me and my household, and we're going to serve the Lord. And I'm going to go to the grave with that. And I think I'll be good. I think I'll be well off with that.
Amen, man. I could talk to you forever. I don't want to take up all your time. I appreciate you, J-Matt.
No doubt, man. Shout out to you, Rob. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the guys. I will say, man, y'all were good to me when I was there. So I appreciate that. A lot of people, and I say this even for the young, receivers there, I guarantee they don't go out there on that field thinking, I cannot wait, to make a bad play. Those guys want to be successful. Like, and so to those guys, I want them to know, hey, just put your head down, focus, cling to the other guys in the locker room. Stay away from the people that have no skin in the game because they don't get it. You talk to the guys in that locker room. Don't talk to your friend that plays for, the team in the media market that's like, stay close to the guys in that locker room. They'll get you through it and have fun with it. My best times in Philadelphia when I was having fun, man. I was having fun. I wish you would have won that divisional game versus the Saints, but man, I was having fun that day, man. I was just out there, with the guys, and so I hope that they can have a good season, man. I hope those guys have fun. Hope they stay healthy, and it's just good talking to you, Rob.